Sup?
What's up, suppers? How you doing? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. This is Mary and this is Morrow. We're about to read some RPG horror stories. Morrow!
Yes, Mary?
I hate this intro.
You don't like it? Do we just cut there?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, just cut there. We didn't realize the DM was writing smut about our characters. This is an ongoing campaign, 5 years so far. Long term, proper investment. Characters grew naturally. Relationships developed over time. All that. One of the PCs ended up in a romantic relationship with an NPC who was a sister of another PC. It wasn't forced or anything. Just kind of happened over time through roleplay. Aaron was into it. It was actually one of the better parts of the campaign. Nothing weird about it. At some point, someone asked the DM if they ever wrote stuff outside the session. Just like extra lore or whatever. They said, yeah, a bit just on the side. A couple of sessions later, they actually showed it to us. We were expecting notes, maybe expanded scenes, backstory writing. It was not that. It was a full story using PCs and that NPC. At first, he just read like dramatized version of the moments we'd already played. Same characters, same dynamic, just written out. Then it kept going, and it turned into full-on smut. Not subtle, not fade to black, fully descriptive. Same characters, same relationship, just taken way further than anything ever happened at the table. To be fair, none of that ever comes up in game. At the table, I've always handled properly fade to black, nothing weird, nothing forced. That was the point where everyone just kind of stopped reading and looked at each other because it all clicked at once. Turns out it was meant as a surprise for some of us. TM had heard us talking about books and fanfiction we liked, so they decided to write a separate, non-canon smut story using the characters, just for fun. No one really knew what to say. It wasn't like anyone was angry. We're still playing the campaign, and everything is fine. If your DM ever says they've been writing something on the side, maybe ask what that's about. Mary, have you ever written anything on the side?
I have not. I have never written fanfiction ever.
Why do I want to press X to doubt in that one?
I've never read fanfiction. I don't even really know how to.
But the way you said it just made it sound very sus. Have you? Now I feel like, now I'm convinced you've written fanfiction. You've written some smutty stuff on the side. You're like a smut writer or something. Have like some sort of like a, what do people use? A Wattpad or something like that? I don't know. What do people write smutty fanfiction? What do you go to write smutty? You know what? If somebody ever wants to make a smutty fanfiction about me and Mary, go right ahead. Just tell us about it. I want to read it. I want to read it all. Tell me.
Oh my
write
god.
Smutty fanfiction about me on Succulentia, and then Mary's there too. We take adventures, smutty adventures on Succulentia, and then share it with me. I want to read it. I want to read it all. I don't know if we'll do it on video and stuff, but I mean, if somebody goes out of the way to do something like that, I might just consider it. Maybe for like a live stream or something. Who knows?
Oh
maybe,
my god.
Maybe we could do a dramatic reenactment of VR chat.
Oh my god, no!
Morrow licks Mary's hoof. Taking a sniff. Oh.
Ah! Mary kicks him in the balls.
And he secretly likes it.
Oh my
All right.
god.
Anyway, I'm actually kind of curious. If you're watching the video, has your team ever written some smut that they don't typically show to the players unless players really ask? And what was your reaction if your DM did write some sort of smut? I don't know any DM person myself that does that, but I mean, we have heard of stories where basically DMs would take the characters in the campaign and they'll basically like AI generate some sort of like prawn and hentai of them, which yeah, definitely does cross the fine line for sure. Would you have a problem, Mary, if a DM were to do that with your character?
I mean, if they ask me first.
Okay, well, in this situation, they did ask, which, do you think this is a problem?
Okay, so if they didn't ask and it was with like me, another character like she wasn't like involved with, then I would be kind of a little upset. I mean, if it's non-canon, I guess it's fine. They have the things, just don't show me. I don't want to know.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the don't show me, don't tell me about it is probably the best approach.
Yeah.
Like, if you're gonna be doing this kind of stuff, I just don't tell me about it. Although, if somebody did want to like do that for me, I'd actually would like to be told. I actually would like to see what kind of things people come up with. Not for any specific reasons. I'm just curious. I'm just Mary. I'm just curious. If you
he's a
write,
pervert.
Mary, if you write smut about me and my adventures in Succulentia, I want to read it. I want to read it. I want to see it. I want to see what kind of creative things people come up with. I think lewd writing can also be creative writing, and we should appreciate it regardless. But no, I agree with you. Like, even in a regular game, in a regular session, if just don't tell me about it and don't show it to me and just never bring it up is probably the easiest, best way to deal with it without creating some sort of an issue or having some sort of a problem, you know, making players feel uncomfortable. I'm glad the players here reacted just fine, but most players would feel very uncomfortable having the characters be written in such a smutty way, you know? Especially if they go into, like,
everyone's into lewd stuff.
Yeah, especially if they go into the specific detail and stuff. Like, not everybody's going to be into it. Some tables are cool with it, but not every table is going to be cool with it. So you got to be kind of careful. You got to be delicate with these sort of things. Anyway, let's get on to the next story for today. Just letting you all know, we got a bunch of shorter stories, but we got a few of them here that we can cover. Let's get to the next story for today.
Can I read this one?
Yes.
I'm not interested in the game, but I'm interested in friends. My first TTRPG experience was back in college, when a friend invited me and two other friends over for a game night, and really didn't give us much info about what we were playing, beyond vaguely mentioning that it might be a bit more involved than board games that we are used to. Turns out we were playing Call of Cthulhu. Also, due to scheduling conflicts, we couldn't start until 9 PM, and he did not have pre-made character sheets for us. Somehow, none of these missteps ended up being what ruined the game. He picked the exact right people to invite, and we were all 100% ready to dive into an RPG, despite none of us having played one before. And we're all very used to staying up ungodly late at that point. The actual problem started when a different friend of mine decided to drop by my apartment and hang out for a bit. We hang out for a few hours, but eventually it's time for me to head to the GM's place. I absolutely could not convince her not to tag along. She was part of the same general friend group as the GM, but I knew that he directly invited the people he wanted to play, and that this wasn't an open invitation. When I tried to explain this to her, she wasn't having it. After a brief argument, she called the GM and put him on the spot. I guess he didn't have the heart to tell her no, even though I'd imagine he knew exactly what was coming next. She's one of those people for whom Catan is too involved, so even though I have no idea what we were going to be playing, I could just tell this wasn't going to go well. On the way there, I stressed how much the GM seemed to care about the game we were going to play, and how this was going to require her to learn a lot of rules. She promised me she'd do her best and stay focused on the game. The GM can't even go through the basic rules before she starts trying to derail the game. She starts bringing up random friend group drama, suggesting we take shots. All of us were having a beer or two, but nobody was planning on getting drunk, and just generally not paying attention to anything the GM was saying. Everything slows to a crawl. We tried to make it clear to her that we do actually want to play the game a few times, and she makes a half-hearted excuse and apologizes and says she'll focus more on the game. Eventually, we just directly ask her why she came if she clearly doesn't want to play. And she says, I'm not interested in the game, but I'm interested in friends. At that point, it was 1 AM and I was falling asleep, so I suggested we just call it a night. We didn't even get past the party meetup scene. Joke's on her, I still play games, but none of us were friends with her for very long after that little stunt.
Wow. Dang, that ending is kind of scathing. Not be friends with her for long. If she really wanted you just to hang out, you could just tell people, hey, you guys just want to hang out and chat and like drink and stuff or something. I don't know, like go to the bar or pub together, wherever you are. It seems like a very elaborate way just to try to make some friends, you know?
It's like, what a way to ruin a nice night. I think she just wanted to drink with people. That's it. Like, she wasn't interested in the game at all.
But yeah, I mean, like, okay, so I understand there's a little bit of social aspect to TTRPGs in general, right? When you're playing TTRPGs, you're hanging out and you're socializing with, you know, with everybody else, whether it's a DM, GM, and other players and stuff, everybody playing the roles, everybody has their own part to play. But like at the end of the day, you still got to make sure you focus on the actual game you're playing. You can do like TTRPGs socially, and there's nothing wrong with making friends through it, right? But you can't just completely forego, if you're going to be like DMing and stuff or GMing, you can't just forego everything and just start talking about friend group drama, talk about wanting to get shots, not paying attention to what GM was saying and stuff. Like, it's one thing to want to come in for a social aspect, but you got to at least be respectful enough to at least allow the GM to do the GM DMing stuff and then just chit chat along the way, or maybe have like a before game chit chats or after game chit chats, right? Like, don't just invite yourself in just to, you know, be like, hey guys, let's stop playing this boring ass game and let's just drink together, or talk about drama because Josh cheated on me with Becky or something. Who cares about that? People just want to play like actual Call of Cthulhu. Let people play it. It's already a niche as it is. Let people just enjoy the damn game they got together to play. If you don't want to come in there to actually play the game, you just want to socialize, you probably should go to a bar or something. Go to a bar, other social gatherings, so you can actually do stuff. Don't just, you know, get yourself invited into a game or just joined as something that you're not going to be participating in. If everybody else wants to play Call of Cthulhu, but you don't want to, then maybe this is not a game that you should be joining. Maybe this is not an outing that you should be part of. Clearly, if this player wants to find something else to do, they just want to socialize and drink and talk about stuff, they don't want to actually play the game. If you don't want to do that, just don't join. Simple as that. You can do other things with them.
They should have just said no to it right off the bat. Like, hey, we're going to be playing this. We're not drinking. We're not socializing. We're going to be really involved in this game. I don't think it's going to be your cup of tea. Stuff like that. And I'll see you afterwards. Or she could have just pretended she wasn't in when she came over.
Or hey, also another option, you could just give it a try. Maybe you actually like it. Like, this is a way for you to be able to get to try something out that your friends are also into, so you could actually give it an extra shot without, you know, just talking about shots. Instead of asking for shots, you should just give the game a shot and see if you actually like it. Because if you don't like it, oh well, you can hang out with your friends another time when they not want to play some sort of TTRPG. But derailing everything just because you want to do something else and just inviting yourself into this thing and basically be like, hey guys, I know you want to play this TTRPG, but let's do something else entirely, is extremely selfish of this player. Super selfish. If you're not going to join for TTRPG, then don't join for TTRPG. Do something else like outside of TTRPG with these people specifically. If they want to get together to play and you don't want to play, just don't join. Simple as that. Also, Mary, have you ever heard of Call of Cthulhu?
I know what Cthulhu is.
Yeah.
I've heard of the name, but not like what it is specifically.
It's like TTRPG, except where like you have like a sanity system and you basically play as like a detective and like, okay, imagine any sort of like a Lovecraftian or horror event, right? Have you ever played a Lovecraftian game?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, pretend like Cthulhu is indeed there and there's cultists of Cthulhu and all kinds of eldritch Lovecraftian kind of like otherworldly creatures beyond our human comprehension, or I guess tiefling and satyr comprehension in this regard. And basically you play as like either investigators or veterans or survivors in this horror setting. I never played it myself, but it always seemed like fun to try at some point. You know what we should do? We should probably get people together and try it for like Halloween or something. Once we figure out like how it plays and stuff, it can maybe play some sort of like a Halloween Lovecraftian one-shot. Wouldn't that be cool?
Roll to seduce Cthulhu.
I'm sure there might be some sort of like a mechanic for that. We can try to figure something out. Isn't that like a date? Yeah, no, there's like a
there is a dating game for it.
Yeah, there's a dating game called Sucker for Love that's all about Lovecraftian horrors beyond imaginations, and you get to bang him. There's one recently that came out about like basically main protagonist banging a star straight up, like a comet or something. Anyway, so banging Lovecraftian horrors beyond imagination aside, let's get to the next story for today. And thank you, Mary, so much for reading this one. AITA for expressing my distress in a mention of essay in the campaign. I'm using a translation app. English isn't my first language. There might be some errors. I'm sorry about this. I, 22 non-binary, am a victim of essay. This will be important in the story later. I was on a campaign with my new friends. We played 6 one-shots together. We started a campaign because we want to build our character's story together. There's no content warning in this campaign. TM said only common violence, rated 16+. The friend group, including 3 men and 1 woman, not including me, win a homebrew campaign. The player, 19 female, is a sorcerer. I'll call her PC Henry. His past was he was a concubine that was abandoned by his parents and lived as a sex worker until he met the party. Okay, I feel like this is one of those moments where you guys should have had a session 0 to discuss about the do's and don'ts and what sort of characters are okayed. And if they were okayed, it's a little bit concerning. I mean, okay, so in a sense, I suppose having a concubine as a character would be fine, and even have like a, I don't know, like a, let's say for example, a courtesan as a character could be doable as long as it's handled appropriately and properly in the campaign. However, by the title, I'm assuming things were completely mismanaged and handled poorly by the DM and probably other people of the table. But either way, I feel like this is one of those things you kind of need to clear in session 0, and this needs to be done by like just throwing in these kind of like, I guess, concubine and courtesans and stuff. I feel like this is one of those things that only mature DMs will be able to portray properly, because otherwise things might get a little bit too sexual. Imagine, if you will, if you allow a player to play as a succubus. I would imagine that if a DM allowed a player to play as a succubus, the DM understands the specific limits about what sort of things that a player would be able to do if they're playing as a quote-unquote succubus. Unless it's one of those kinky games where sex is the topic of the matter. I'm assuming if it's a regular as D&D game, this should be handled like appropriately and properly, but also if it was handled appropriately and properly, we would have an RPG horror story. So I'm just shut up and I'm keep reading. The other 3 players aren't the important part of this horror story, so I won't tell anything much about them. I played as a vengeance paladin. He's a tiefling that was raised by faith, so he's righteous unlike his tiefling nature. Hey, I take offense to that. Tieflings can be righteous if they want to, okay? Just because you're playing a tiefling doesn't mean you are a devil hellspawn, and there's plenty of tieflings out there that can be vengeance paladin without any issues whatsoever. I'm tiefling and I'm proud. I'm proud to be a hot-blooded tiefling. I almost said hot-blooded Latina. My brain is so rotted. Dude,
I need artwork of that.
Hot-blooded Latina tieflings in your area. Today our characters were playing a game where the loser will confess the wrongdoings. Henry loses and confesses his sins, that he assaulted the man that were bad-mouthing to him. He caused the man to lose his mind and left alone. And I'm assuming your DM cleared this sort of thing because they cleared the character and now everybody gets to find this out. You know how I said, like, you know, it takes a specific type of DM to be able to handle these kind of situations correctly? We'll see what is going to happen here in this situation. At that moment, my PC snapped. He said he can't view Henry, his party member, the same anymore, and Henry's owner, not the character, the player said the victim enjoyed it. I explained to her that the victim's body will react to sensations even if it's forced. She said she understands, but the victim liked it. After ending that session, I don't like the way it's written. I really, After ending the session, she private messaged to me that I shouldn't mix my personal experience to the character that didn't suffer SA. Her friend and close ones are victims of SA, so she understands my concern. I said sorry to her that I expressed my personal experience. I trusted her and my friends that they will know more of me. We stopped talking about that later and started a new session, but at one point, I still feel bad to hear contents including SA from PC, which isn't the victim of it, without warning. So AITA. Okay, let's get a bit of a recap of the story, because I think there's a lot to recap here in particular, you know, just to make sure we divulge together. Okay, so we have OP here, who is indeed a victim of SA. They joined a game where specifically it only cleared that have combat violence and rated 16, so clearly some things were definitely left out of the way and weren't mentioned during session 0 that should have been covered and mentioned. They have another player called the Sorcerer, who's playing as a character named Henry, who's a concubine that basically was thrust into sex work until they met the party. And then your paladin and Henry met and apparently had to reveal some sort of sins and secrets, and Henry, or I guess this player, decided that our character Henry is going to reveal the fact that their character assaulted somebody that was bad-mouthing them and made him basically, mind broke him? Like some sort of a hentai? What is like some sort of a hentai mind break genre? Basically, hentai mind broke him, and apparently the victim enjoyed it. You know, there was already, I feel like there's already kind of some lines that should have been covered in session 0 immediately that are being crossed right now already as is, because we're going into a territory that has not been covered at all whatsoever during session 0. I think if you're going to be having in campaign something like SA and stuff as a theme for the campaign, I feel like it's kind of important that you mention it during session 0 so that everybody knows what they get themselves into. So players that aren't interested in this kind of fantasy can nope out and not be part of it. But also it feels really weird because I can't tell what the player is doing, right? The player that's playing Henry, I can't tell if they're trying to like make this assault like backstory like some sort of like a fetish or some sort of fixation. Like I don't know what sort of importance they're trying to draw into it. Why have that part of your character's story? Why mention that specifically? Like, okay, I understand some people like to say, for example, if they went through trauma, like to talk about trauma and include that trauma as part of their character stuff in order to maybe cope with it or deal with it or some sort of like a coping mechanism and stuff. I fully get it. Like I've come from VRChat roleplays. I have seen many people have have the characters go through something kind of traumatic and similar that they particularly went through, but it was all consensual and out in the open, and specifically was done in like private settings, not in public settings, where the character could go through some sort of a trauma that the player was fully consenting to and kind of wanted the characters to go through trauma. It was almost like fishing for trauma. It's weird, dude. I don't know how to really describe it, but from what I understand, a lot of it was very consensual. DMs were okay with it and the player was okay with it, and it was never exposed to like the greater group of players. Nobody else had to like be part of the trauma dumping, right? It was like a very like a self-only trauma dump that I guess some people streamed. I don't know. It's weird. It's really weird. To go through all this stuff that I experienced in VR chat, I've seen in VR chat happen, especially in roleplay communities, will be too much of a hurdle already as it is. It'll make the video like what 4 times as long. So we're not gonna cover that. But going back to the story after my strange tangent, whenever you decide to voice concerns in character but also out of character, the player that played Henry got upset at you because you apparently decided to basically protest against this whole thing and say like it's not right, both in character and out of character. And suddenly OP is blamed by saying like you don't know what SA is like because I know people that went through SA. So they're basically saying that their canon of the events in character they described is valid because they just know people that went through SA. It's such a weird argument to me. That's a really weird thing to mention, right? Am I understanding this correctly?
So basically, like, the person who wrote the story went through SA, and that's why they were really uncomfortable. The fact that this other player was talking about it so much in the campaign.
Which makes sense, especially when through some sort of traumatic experience. Having somebody try to like play off as if it's some sort of like an enjoyable experience in some capacity will probably make you feel uncomfortable, because I don't think victims of SA like to have like their trauma be fetishized or be described as enjoyable. But for this player to basically come out there and basically say like, oh, I have friends that are victims of SA, so therefore what I do with this particular situation with my character is okay. I just don't think it's okay. I just don't think it's okay. It just sounds weird to say like, oh, it's okay. I have buddies that went through SA, so therefore I'm valid. That just sounds weird to me. Am I understanding correctly? Is that what the player is saying? I shouldn't mix my personal experience to the character that didn't suffer SA. Her friends are close ones are victims of SA, so she understands my concern. That still feels weird.
If she understands it, why did she keep going with it?
Oh no, it's okay. I have friends that went through SA. That still doesn't make it okay. That just makes it sound weird. It sounds like this player that's playing Henry is almost fetishizing the whole idea. I don't know. But they're describing the fact that the victim enjoyed it. I don't think they're describing like that shines some sort of like a weird, sick, twisted, like positive light, like a silver lining in a horrible thing. And I just find it really uncomfortable, you know? It just makes me feel really grossed out by that. People, victims of SA, they don't enjoy it. It's a traumatic experience. It's a negative experience. Describing it as somebody like a victim enjoyed it. It's not good. It just sounds like a fetishization or something. At least to me, it sounds like fetishization, because they try to put some sort of a positive spin to a bad traumatic event and stuff. It sounds like it belongs to like the dredges of like hentai or something. I don't know. It is like some sort of like a horrible, grotesque stuff where you can find something online. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this one, Mary. How do you feel about this one?
I feel like the GM should have stopped it or nipped it in the bud the moment they brought it up or something, because like that they said 16 plus, which is like 16. You're not. No sexual stuff should be in it. Yeah, you could be describing like T for, the game is rated T for teen, not like A for adult horrible, or at least M, M for mature, 17 plus, stuff like that. I don't know. Peggy 16 and the fact
rating.
They like described it, I was like, no, that's just going too far. Like you're just like enjoying, probably wanting the reactions from people. It's like, don't do that. That's like, I don't know. Maybe they didn't know what they were doing, or they thought like they wanted something edgy.
Oh, they clearly know what they were doing. They're trying to be extra edgy and extra specific, they're trying to go with specific like darker theme to it, and whenever confronted with that sort of thing, their excuses, oh no, don't worry, I have friends that were essayed. That doesn't make it okay. That doesn't make it okay. You cannot show understanding. If you show an understanding, you can understand that maybe people victims of SA don't like whenever they're like the experience of SA is described in any kind of positive light. It is not going to feel good for somebody. If you went through trauma and somebody's fetishizing your trauma, or somebody describing the trauma that you experienced, that you had a negative horrible experience with, like in some sort of a positive light, it just sounds weird. It sounds off. It just sounds really off to me. I don't know what's the wording for it, but it sounds gross. That's what
I
it
mean, they
sounds
could
like.
have been lying about it too, saying they had friends who've been through it just to like make him to be like, oh, I'm like trying to get out of it,
You're right.
easier.
Actually, it could be some sort of like a self-pass, like, oh no, it's okay, I have friends that went through it. Like,
yeah.
it's like some sort of a shield to basically like excuse them from doing whatever. Yeah, I agree. This feels very gross. It just feels very gross to do the way. I think this was pulled off extremely tactless by the Henry's player. But the question is OP the a-hole? What do you think, Mary?
No, they're not the asshole. It was definitely the player and the GM that didn't kind of step in with it.
I agree.
I don't know.
I fully agree. I don't think OP did anything wrong. In fact, voicing about this kind of stuff in character, out of character, I think it's very reasonable. And trying to paint some horrible event like that in positive light is very much valid. Like, okay, if this was like some sort of a game, well, this was some sort of a kink game, right? Where these kind of darker kinks are being discovered and are just enjoyed for the sake of enjoyment of the game in privacy with everybody consenting for it, that'd be a whole other thing. But this is just a regular ass D&D game. Regular ass D&D game where specifically by the DM isolated and described common violence and rated 16+. This goes beyond that completely, which I think is just completely crossing all kinds of boundaries. I don't think OP is an a-hole whatsoever in the slightest, and in fact this playing Henry is being, in my opinion, rather insensitive and kind of gross, kind of yucky, kind of gets me to yuck out a little bit, honestly. What are people saying? Sorry, I'm trying to figure out at one point in a world where you can play as anything and player thinks to themselves, wow, that's cool, I get to play as a rapist. Yeah. A rape. I can't handle having a rapist member in the party. Yeah, no, I agree completely. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.